All right, well, first I want to thank the organizer for having me. I am an energy and environmental economist in Benthem. I am especially interested in environmental policies and their unintended consequences and how we can improve climate policy design. And I typically look at that in the context of renewable energy markets, carbon markets, lots of studies on cars, and then policies that aim to prevent deforestation. And today I would like to talk about cars because transportation is the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the US, and it's an even larger share of local pollution, such as carbon monoxide and NOx. And that's what I want to talk about because inspired by the Volkswagen scandal, I wanted to know, do these vehicle exhaust standards that aim to reduce local emissions from cars, do they actually work? So vehicle exhaust standards are regulation on maximum emissions rates for new vehicles in the US in grams per mile. And automakers comply with them by essentially innovation. They install technologies to make cars cleaner. The prime example would be catalytic converters a couple decades ago and subsequent complementary technologies. And these are critically important environmental policies, but they're hugely understudied. So I and a group of co-authors wanted to answer the question, first of all, what has happened to air pollution from vehicles over time? Have the standards caused the reductions that we've seen? And then third, what if we had chosen a different policy? What would other alternative counterfactual policies have done? And to answer those questions, we went on a major data hunt collecting over 60 years of data on new vehicle inspections, millions of used vehicle inspections. And then we built this large economic equilibrium model of the new and used car fleet to study what would have happened had we chosen a different policy. So let me first show you some data. So you're looking at carbon monoxide. You can see before the regulation began in 1967, no action, flat emissions rates. But then the moment the regulation started, emissions started to go down really rapidly to the point where a car today, a new car, is about 200 times as clean as it was in the 1960s. So that's really good news. The same as holds, by the way, for hydrocarbons and NOx. And our research shows that this is not just a coincidence. Actually, the standards caused these declines. So that's the good news. The bad news is that when a car is born, right, it stays on the road for quite a while, and the same car gets dirtier and dirtier as it ages. So this graph shows you that a car, when it's 25 years old, is about 3 times as polluting on average than when it was 4 years old, when you look at NOx. But it's 20 times more polluting on average when you look at carbon monoxide. So cars really get very dirty. And this is really critically important because it shows you that there's a small group of super polluters on the road, a small number of cars. But because those cars were already dirtier when they were new 25 years ago, and then you add 25 years of wear and tear, they're really extremely dirty. So the question is, how can we get rid of those old cars? And I want to contrast 2 different policies. One would have been, what if we had set tighter standards 20 years ago? Well, I mean, that would have led to lots, basically the experiment is, what if we had phased in the standards 4 years earlier in every given year? It would have led to many more clean new vehicles, like the RAV4 Prime that I'm a proud owner of. It would have given us $117 billion in gains and 8% less pollution today than what we have now. But the other policy would be to really target those very old super polluters. What if we just let drivers pay for the pollution of their cars, so charge a very high fee to the owners of these old cars? It would lead to massive scrappage, right? And scrapping all those old vehicles also makes space, again, for lots of new vehicles, more efficient vehicles, because it became so expensive to drive these old cars. So that's an even better policy that would have given us many more dollars in gains, but a whopping 37% reduction in pollution. So this is a clear winner from an environmental perspective. The issue, though, is that who owns these old cars? They're typically poorer households that now face the burden of paying for very high annual fees. I'm working on a next project to study exactly that, so stay tuned maybe for next year, and I can tell you the answer of how the benefits and costs are distributed. So thanks very much for your attention.